I think we are live because the last time it showed me that I am live. I started speaking all of a sudden, and then it did reset the timer to 3 seconds after about 20 or 25 seconds. So I'm looking at it if it resets the network again. Okay, so today's topic is so it's not resetting, so I'm starting. It has reset the timer. Okay, so I'll again see if it resets the timer till 30th second at least. I am not looking to get my effort drained down the gutter. Uh, I think it is not resetting the timer now. Okay, so today's topic is what to do when you're stuck in something for a really long duration of time, which might even tend to infinity. So if you are stuck in something for really infinite duration of time, how to cross that barrier, how to come out of that hurdle. So basically, how to get out of where you are stuck. Now, if to frame it in a more precise manner, uh, I would say what to do when you're stuck in something from a time minus infinity. So that minus infinity is a timestamp. So for example, right now it is 11:46 a.m. in Indian Standard Time. So if you're stuck at something from x time where x is minus infinite, okay, a time which is whose start is not known. No, the answer to this question is so you might be thinking I'll be uh, stubborn, I'll be rigid, I'll be tough, and I'll get out of the hurdle, etc. But the answer to this question is thinking. Now, coming to before coming to the answer, generally people think that it cannot happen that you are stuck at something for such a long duration of time. This just doesn't happen. It has never happened with us, etc., etc. But it does happen. Now, people also think that I can try this solution, I can try that solution, I can work this out because till this point of time in their lives, they might not have faced any time where they were just stuck. Their life has been really easy on them, but it is not the case with everyone everywhere every time. So it happens, and whatever you try, you can't just come out of it. It does happen. Now, what to do in such a scenario? That is what we are going to be addressing in this video. Now, I gave you the answer thinking, pondering over it, or thinking over it. And in Hindi, we call it chintan, thinking. Now, what is thinking? So let's just say that I'm sitting and I'm thinking about something. Okay, I'm thinking about my. So I have to take a class, and have I finished the work that I need to do before the class starts? Okay, so thinking about the class. Now, I'm thinking what went wrong last night when I had a fight with one of my acquaintances, and what I could have done for that fight to either not have happened, or to close that fight in the initial phase, which I could not. Now, I'm thinking about how I could have improved or done better in that time. So, there are times when people think about a particular outcome that they want to get. Uh, so, a particular outcome, either positive or negative. So I might be thinking that I want to go and beat that person. So I'm thinking, I'm planning I'm trying to strategize and come up with a plan to beat that person, okay, to execute this task. So basically, I am looking forward to an outcome, and I am thinking about it. So people think about something and they expect a possible outcome, and they what they do is, they think in the process. So when your possible outcome, the desired outcome is positive, so you want to beat someone, that is most probably negative if the person is not at fault. Uh, but if you want to get a positive outcome, for example, if you want to go and donate to charity, and you're thinking about how to get there within 2 days, because it's in another city. So when you think about the outcome that you want to get, that outcome should be positive, should not be against humanity or against the spiritual values of the nature. So the it should be kind of a positive outcome. You should not be thinking of an outcome where you want people to die, the people who never had who never committed any mistake, who were not at fault. So you were thinking of a positive outcome. Then if you're thinking of a positive outcome, and coming back to the original question, you are stuck at a point. Now if you're stuck at a point, your possible outcome, your desired outcome is coming out of that hurdle and crossing that hurdle, and the desired output after crossing that hurdle should be positive output, a positive thing in the on the grounds of humanity, not a negative thing, or it can be a neutral thing which has nothing to do with harming anyone in any way in a broader sense. Then if you keep thinking about it, if you keep thinking about how can I get that outcome, so thinking on how can I get that outcome, why I haven't been able to get that outcome till date, what have been stuck points, and sometimes just blaming yourself for not being able to reach that stage. So and kind of willing to improve yourself, these sort of feelings which cause you to think a lot towards a positive outcome, they initiate a scientific process. Now all of this is based on spirituality. So the scientific processes, so till date I haven't explained this in my videos uh, over here, but what I'll do is I'll explain them next video onwards, so that that time onwards you have a clarity on uh, a base knowledge on top of which we can talk. So when you think about uh, that positive outcome, in a sense where you blame yourself, you want to self improve, you want to reach that outcome, you're thinking of looking back and analyzing what went wrong, how it could have been improved, how can it now be improved. Those sort of thought processes, that sort of thinking initiates a scientific uh, process where your soul starts to get rid of the karma particles or the karma particles from it. These particles were the reason that they were the reason or the cause that was binding you or holding you back and was making you unable to cross that hurdle. So basically these Ka- Karm particles were making you incapable of crossing that hurdle. Now, as we have something which we have talked about never on this channel, so I'll keep the scientific process up to this extent. This is enough to know for now. Now, once because of that thinking process, these particles start to leave your soul, and as you keep thinking, these particles keep leaving. If you think with a higher intense feeling or a higher intense willingness to reach that positive desired outcome, then the speed of eradication of these particles, the speed with at which they are leaving your soul, increases drastically. Now, at the same time, with that intensity, if you have the willpower, if you're stubborn or you're really tough with your intent of reaching that outcome, the positive outcome, it shouldn't be the negative outcome. Else, you'll end up binding more karma particles or karma particles around your soul. So, when you're desiring for a positive outcome, the the laws of nature support you, and the karma, the process of soul and karma is just built on nature's laws. So these particles follow nature's law. They are non-living beings. So they leave the soul based on the law, based on their own nature of leaving the soul. When people desire the positive outcomes, so positive thinking, the particles start to leave with a particular speed. Now, a more intense feeling where you really want that outcome to come and you're thinking about it, uh, about how that output can be made possible, the speed increases significantly. When you are too uh, rigid about getting that outcome, too tough, you have a really strong willpower. As your willpower increases, the speed of eradication increases kind of exponentially or really drastically. So basically, you can say speed of eradication of the karma particles from the soul is directly proportional to the uh, willpower, okay, or the intensity of the willpower. Now, I talked about two intensities: intensity of the willpower and intensity of the thought of those of that possible desired outcome to be reached. Okay, so could have an intensity of, you might not be having such a strong willpower, but you are at a decent level with your toughness or your willpower, but you're still having a strong intention that I should be reaching over there. Uh, and now with the willpower, you have that intention where you think, I am going to reach over there and I have to get it done. And that willpower keeps rising. And as it keeps rising, the eradication process uh, happens really fast, kind of exponentially, but I am not sure if that can actually be validated with a graph or an exponential graph. So, this is the scientific process. I have explained it enough for the video. Now, based on this process, you can happen to understand how you can get out of where you're stuck. And if you're not stuck in something for really long duration, but it is relatively long, not if not in absolute. For example, if you want to go out and buy something and you have been stuck for let's say 3 days, you have been just thinking, but you have not been able to execute it. So thinking that to go would eradicate the current particles, stopping you from doing it, and then one day you would just be able to go out and buy it as easily as you should have been if there were no particles stopping you from doing it. Okay. Now, what about the people who cannot speak? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll give you the context first. So, in my previous videos, I told you that a good way of thinking is to speak whatever you're thinking, okay, or speak your thoughts, because your thoughts make whatever you are thinking. You think about the thought, or the thought is what you are thinking. So basically, you think on top of a thought. You need something on top of which you can think, so you think on top of a thought. So as you're thinking, one second, I lost the track. Yeah. So I told you that speaking is a very good way of thinking. That is one. The second thing is speaking. Apart from speaking, writing is also a good way of speaking. So what if someone might not be able to speak because someone else is around, or maybe the person just cannot speak uh, due to any disability? So what to do in such a case? Well, you can think inside just your head or in your inner self. That is one. What is the second? If what if you cannot just write and think? You can just, let's say someone might not be able to use hands for one or the other reason. You can think it inside your head. That's two. Now, what do we get as an outcome from this? What is the lesson? Nature has designed this scientific process as doable as a doable process for every living being, or at least for all human beings, if not talking about every living being. uh, because living beings constitute of plants and animals, birds, etc. Okay. So how how did the nature design the process? So as it does not require any of your sense organs, that means you can just do it. So anyone who doesn't have one or more sense organs, either not functioning or just doesn't have the sense organ at all, can do it. So the five sense organs are skin, tongue, nose, so eyes and ears, in that order. But I'll talk about the sense organs in the future videos. So if someone doesn't have the ways of receiving input from the outside world, which is the sense organs, or giving input to the output to the outside world, the person can still get out of what they are stuck at using the process of pondering, thinking inside your head, or in your inner self. that concludes that nature took care of everyone and gave a process that was doable by everyone, and a process which was uh, not based on any physical aspects of the person, but just the inner aspects or the spiritual part of the person, kind of. So I think that should be okay for it. And so someone might be thinking that I could have summarized this within uh, 3 minutes. Yes, that's possible. So I would post it in my Instagram reel within 60 seconds. So why take 20 minutes of your time? Well, the process of understanding things, or the process of understanding things comprehensively, is based on this way of how things have been built in nature, or at least I'm sure about this for spiritual texts and for the textbooks that we read in the school and colleges. So the general academics. So what do we do? So you have been studying physics for, let's say, last 3 years or 6 years, or maths for last 10 years. Oh, do you remember everything? Every single class that lasted for 30 minutes to 60 minutes, 5 days a week or 6 days a week, and that happened approximately 250 to 300 days in a year, and that has been happening for 10 years in a row. Do you remember everything that you have been taught? No. But you remember the conclusions. Okay. So do you remember all the conclusions from the 10 years right now? No. There were so many of them. There are so many of them. So what? Well, well, I think I'll post an individual video on exactly this learning pattern. Well, if you notice, whenever you need a particular conclusion, you have been designed that you are capable, your mind or whatever, your inner self is capable of digging the conclusions inside your database and then get the necessary conclusion out and put it in your immediate memory. Okay, that is one. Now what about the second one, where we learned for so long duration? Why couldn't we just understand the conclusions themselves? Well, the reason is the nature's setup has been made in a manner where things are when things need to be much clearer or completely clear, you need to understand them from one end to another end comprehensively. That is one. And the second one is, because we know that we cannot remember all of things that we have heard in this video or any other video or in the general day-to-day life, then the human beings are designed to retain summary or a single liners or single word conclusions from these elaborated comprehensive lessons or learnings that they keep getting throughout the life. So they have conclusions, one liner conclusions, or one phrase conclusions, or even one word conclusions. And whenever necessary, the humans get that conclusion out of their database. Now that conclusion is mapped to the whole elaboration, the comprehensive elaboration that they have learned earlier, and they get that elaboration out based on this conclusion whenever necessary. So they'll get the conclusion out whenever necessary, and then if necessary, now this is second database look. So you got the conclusion. If your work gets done with the conclusion itself, you do not your inner self or brain would not dig for the elaborated data on this conclusion. So basically, this conclusion was of this data. This data's conclusion was this. So if necessary, your inner self or brain would dig in and would bring the necessary parts of this elaboration or the whole elaboration uh, to your immediate memory for you to think on top of it, because you need a base on top of it which you think. So that's it. Yes, I have said this kind of comprehensively, this pattern of how nature or how human brain or human inner self functions, but I will dedicate a separate video to it. That is why my videos are long as well as short, and I um, give the same information both of them, but they carry really different informations at the same time. Because one is just the conclusion, the utmost necessary conclusion, and the other one is the elaboration. First, you should learn the conclusions. That is what I would say, but that could be half knowledge, and half knowledge could be really dangerous. You do not know the science behind it and when to use it and how, but conclusions are generally actionable. So the conclusion could be fight. So, and there is a really huge data behind it. uh, so you would just fight. Okay. So for example, a martial artist, the conclusion is whenever there is a fight, just fight. Don't think about the rules that you have been learning for 20 years, or the kicks or the punches or whatever the moves. uh, but uh, if given the if the martial artist learned it without the elaborated lessons across these 20 years, then there could have been a severe damage to the uh, martial artist in that uh, fight. Okay. So basically, that is what I want to say. I'm sorry, but I should have taken this second part in a different topic. I would do that next time onwards. Thanks for, if you have been here for this long. I appreciate your patience and uh, tolerating my failure in framing the sentences quickly, uh, as I'm not a native speaker. But thanks for holding this long, or even for 10, 15, or 20 minutes. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.